Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sara Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make tiny improvements to your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon. Hello and welcome to this episode. All right, this is going to be a big one. Hopefully not length and more about content, but I don't want to overwhelm you, but I want to give you enough information that you actually consider implementing a CRM if you do not already have one. I can't believe how many people have big, thriving businesses and don't use a CRM. I can't imagine it. So let me back up. A CRM is a customer relationship management tool. Basically, I like to think of it as a big digital file cabinet. So anytime I have a project, let's say I have an event, it gets filed away under that client's name in my big digital cabinet. I also have everything sorted chronologically so I can see a visual of what upcoming events I have. If I click into those client folders, I can see their initial contact form. I can see their invoice. I can see if it's been paid. I can make notes. I can upload files. So if they send me an inspiration photo, I can put that in there. Basically, it frees me from email. It takes everything that normally I would be searching frantically through my email to find, and it puts it all into a nice little folder just for me. Even all the emails that I send back and forth to the client, those automatically get categorized under their little file. It is truly, truly magical. And that is, I use 17 hats. That's the way that it works for me. I can't really speak to other CRMs, but having some sort of tool in place is so valuable. It will save you so much time. I can't believe some of the companies that are so good and so big, and I know that they are still struggling to run their business completely through Instagram, DMs, or email. To me, that is just so baffling. And 17 hats is my secret to how I'm able to still work a full-time job and also do balloons full-time. Not saying that that is the dream. That's just kind of what I've chosen because I accidentally fell into a career that I really like. I'm not ready to leave it yet, but I accidentally grew a balloon business. So I use 17 hats as basically what I would use an administrative assistant for, or some sort of virtual assistant. It does so much of the work for me, but it's just like a robot. With that said, like any human that you would hire, you would have to train that person. They wouldn't come in knowing what you want to say to clients or the process that you want to follow. So you have to train that person. You also have to train your CRM. So I think that's where people think I'm going to do this. And then when they actually get into the nuts and bolts of implementing, it's a lot of work and it's really overwhelming. But think of it as training a person. That's not something you would do in 45 minutes one day. That would be a many week, many month type of thing. And as that person grows and learns more about your business, so do their responsibilities. And that is exactly what 17 Hats has done for me. At first, I just used it as a way to sort my projects. Now, I use it to kind of automatically communicate with people. I use it to store files. I use it to follow up with people. In my last episode for this Set It Up September series, I use it to send automatic reminders for rebooking a year later. So again, you don't get to that on the first day. You get to that after years and years of knowing and loving and committing to a software. So that is kind of my 17 hats spiel. The first part of this episode, though, I do want to talk about kind of general CRM and business practices, because I know there are people out there that already have a CRM that they're happy with. So maybe it's Dubsado or Honeybook, or there's a million others. I love 17 Hats. It works well for me. The price is super competitive. I think I'm a big visual person. I like for things to look nice. So the fact that on my end, the interface is super clean and easy to understand. And then the invoices that my clients get, they're very, very nice looking. And I know that seems silly, but I think that stuff's important. I routinely get people who also own businesses asking me like what I'm using behind the scenes, because they're like, this is so easy and this looks so nice. Like, I want to know what software you're using, and it's 17 Hats. So that's why I can only speak highly about them. And I have a link in the show notes wherever you're listening if you want to check it out. They actually have a free version, and then you can kind of upgrade as your business grows. I would encourage you to just buy the highest level. It does everything that you need. It probably does more than you need, but it's not very expensive. And the only way, again, this is just my opinion, I think the only way you will actually implement a CRM is to commit to it. And for me, that was money. That was like, I spent money on this and I purchased a year plan. So I needed to actually make it work. Like, if I'm doing a free trial, I'm just never going to do it. Like, or if I have some sort of coupon code and the first month is like $10, like I don't have enough skin in the game, so I'm not going to do it. So I think you just need to commit and trust that there are enough balloon people that stand by this program. And maybe you have more people that stand by a different program. Fine, go with that one. But you have to commit is what I'm saying. You can't just kind of like dabble, because you are changing everything about your business if you implement a CRM. All of the email back and forth has to go through 17 Hats. All of your invoicing you need to get going through 17 Hats. All of your everything needs to be through this system. So like, you can't really half-ass it. You can't like dip your toe in. You have to totally commit and dive. So that, again, I'm not trying to scare you away. I'm just trying to be realistic about what I'm proposing here and the reason why it has essentially saved my business and allowed me to just continue to grow year after year, even though I'm still just a one-woman show. I don't have any help other than a cleaner that I hire to clean my shop once a week. Everything else is through 17 Hats and myself. So with that, let's jump in. If you are using a different system, this first half of the podcast is going to apply to you. I didn't want to record an entire episode that would be irrelevant for people. So the first half, I'm going to talk about why a CRM and workflows. Then the second half, I'm going to talk specifically about 17 Hats. Again, that's all I can speak to. That's all I've ever used. So it's not like I'm knocking other brands. I just simply don't know enough about them. But when we launch in here, I just wanted to kind of frame the conversation by talking about the customer experience. I feel like I say this over and over. I don't know that I've ever said it in a podcast. I don't want people to come after me, but I have always been of the mind that it's not really about balloons. Don't kill me. I'm so sorry. Balloons they're balloons. At some point, your skill is good, and if all you're doing is paying money for like classes and conventions because you just want to like keep upping your balloon game, that's fine. But that is not going to increase your income. Like, people don't care if you can do like, world competition level distortion, detailed work like that. Like, people want spiral arches. People want organic Garland. Like, that is what is sellable. That is what is marketable. So that is how I'm framing, my thought here. So once your skill is good, now I'm not saying that like a DIYer can come in and just kind of, knock you out. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have skill. You have to have training. But like, that is not a lifelong amount of training. Like, you can get there in a year or two if you have a good foundation, if you learn from the right people, and eventually your balloon skill, it's good. It's good enough. You need to move on and focus on something else. So if you are still in that like skill building phase and it's been more than like a year or two, you got to move on. And the only thing to move on to is that customer experience. Like, that is going to be the thing that sets you apart. It's not going to be your balloons. Like, yes, your balloons will look awesome, but like, I was a DIYer at one time too. I was a beginner once too. And now 5 years in, like, I'm outselling other people, and it's not because I'm any more talented or because I'm any better at balloons. I'm like okay at balloons. I'm just going to be honest. I'm like medium okay. There's nothing special about what I do. I just do the same stuff over and over and over. I do clean decor. I do sellable decor. I have an eye for color, but other than that, it is my customer experience that brings in the money. And I think everyone gets to that point. I actually heard a nice story from someone actually in 17 Hats, and they said the same thing that's happening now with balloons, with all the influx of new DIYers, happened with photographers several years ago when Canon or like Nikon or someone, they came out with like a very good camera that was very affordable. So all of a sudden for like $200 or $300, people were getting these amazing cameras. And then overnight, everyone was a professional photographer. Like everyone was a photographer. So at that time, it was like, well, wait a minute. Now, if everyone can be a photographer, I actually am a professional photographer. What am I going to do to stand out? What am I going to do to get more business? And it's the customer experience. I feel like that is the same thing for balloons. The pandemic brought out, everyone and their mom is a balloon decorator now. Everyone started doing yard art because they saw it everywhere. And it doesn't take a genius to see, party poles in everyone's yard and think, well, I could do that. Like I could charge that. That person's booked for 3 months. Well, then shoot, I'll do that. That's quite honestly, that's how I got into balloons, you guys. Like I saw other people doing it and I was like, I could do that. And I can. So that is a good thing because it makes balloons available to everybody. It makes everybody like aware of balloon decor, and that helps everybody. The more balloons are just expected to be at events, the more work that is for everybody. But like I said earlier, there's not a huge difference between someone who's been in business for 5 and 10 years and someone who's been in business for 6 months. And that's scary. You don't have to get like a degree. You don't have to do anything to just become a professional balloon decorator. So my whole long-winded point is that the only thing between you and all of the new competition is your customer experience. So that's what I want to get into. So when I say the customer experience, that is your communication. New people do not have websites. They don't have a clear workflow. They don't have pricing figured out. They don't understand how to tell customers what they should purchase. They don't understand pricing, which is why half the time they're charging like nothing. And don't worry about that because they're not going to make any money, but they're not going to figure that out for a couple years. In the meantime, you need to be worried about the clients. You need to be worried that they aren't concerned that this new person is charging half as much as you because you are giving them such a good experience. They would pay double. They don't care. That is the customer experience that we are after. And I am able to recreate that experience with very little energy because of my CRM. So all of my emails, all of my communication starts with a template. It rarely is like a finished template that I just hit send, but it starts with a template, which is most of the work. I'll customize, I'll tweak things so they're a little bit more personal, but the difference that I feel between what it used to be, which was opening my email and seeing, 25 unanswered emails, that to me was like an insurmountable amount of work. I just got really overwhelmed, and instead I would answer no emails, and then I would just let more come in and just not really have a clear line of production. Like I didn't know what I was supposed to do first. And then I would just start the long process of responding one by one. And as I'm responding, more emails are coming in. And it was just like a never ending cycle. That eventually is what led me to finally commit to something. And I think I just frankly Googled and 17 Hats came up first, and that's how I picked it. So I'm glad that I did. But again, don't overthink this. Something is better than nothing. I promise you. If you are just like on the struggle bus with emails, there is a solution. So now I have my form, my client lead form, and it's embedded on my website. So when people fill out the contact form, that is linked to my 17 Hats. So as soon as someone fills out that form with their information, 17 Hats starts their little file. And I'm going to try to actually like pull back on the 17 Hats specific stuff and just talk about my workflow so that it applies to any CRM. But the first step is that you want that contact form on your website to go somewhere that's not your email inbox. You want it to go to some sort of system that can do something with that information. So instead of having to retype or copy all that information a million times, the client types it for you and you're up and running. So step one of my workflow is getting people to fill out that form on my website. Step two is me resisting the urge to respond to them really quick in email, because that is always what I want to do. I see their form come in and I want to like type an email being like, I'm available, blah, blah, blah. And I have to pump the brakes still. I've been using this for like 5 years. I still have to pump the brakes and tell myself I have to go into 17 Hats, and that is where I need to do my business. Like that is where everything needs to live because it's going to help. Once inside the CRM, then you can see where your leads are. and you can start kind of clicking through what is called the workflow. And I think that's pretty consistent, like on any platform. But your workflow, that's going to be how you lead your customer through that tailored experience that you have created. Now, you can't do that unless you have created it. So you can't walk someone through a perfectly designed workflow if you haven't taken the time to set that up. So that is kind of the meat and the potatoes of this episode, setting up your workflow so that you can implement it. So set it up September. Use the last 3 months here to really think about what your workflow is and how you want it to work. And then how are you going to implement that? So maybe you don't want a CRM or 17 hats or whatever. You don't want to do it. You can't afford it, or you can, I promise you, but you think you can't. Even if you are just going to use email, even if you are just going to use Instagram DMs, which I highly, highly don't recommend. But if that's you and you want to still do your business how you want to do your business, you still need to have a workflow. So a lot of times that's going to look like your customer reaching out to you and then you responding. So you need to figure out, like, what is that response? It should not be very different for every person. Most of the time you're going to say the same thing, and that's going to be something about asking for more information. Hopefully, if you have your lead form set up, you get all the information you need in the first contact. Then you need to confirm your availability. At some point, you're going to need to design the event, and then at some point, you're going to need to collect money. Then you're going to need to do the event. Then you're going to need to send some sort of follow-up. So either a thank you note or a time to rebook or whatever. So you need to, on paper, write down the steps of your process. And I don't think that they will be very different depending on the kind of event. So if you have a wedding, it might be slightly different wording than if you have a high school graduation. But really, those big steps of confirming availability, and then figuring out what the design is, and then sending the invoice and collecting the money, and then doing the job. Those are all kind of pretty consistent. I mean, that's kind of the general workflow. So once you get those big milestones of an event, then go in and do all the nitty gritty. So what does confirming your availability actually look like? For me, it's like looking at my actual family calendar. Like, are we going to be out of town that week? Is my husband available to watch our daughter? Am I working my other job that day? Like, figuring out my actual availability. Then looking and seeing, like, is it actually a job that I want to do? Like, I know that's not technically confirming availability, but like mentally, am I available for this job that seems like it's going to be really terrible? No. Or maybe it's like, I had someone who wanted 2,500 helium balloons 3 days from now. And like, I had the day available, but like I couldn't physically do that job. Like, I was unavailable. The balloons were unavailable. The helium was unavailable. It was like, I could not confirm that job because it just wasn't going to happen on that timeline. So are you available? Figure out all the little things that you actually need to check. And maybe part of that is a built-in buffer. Maybe you're not available for anything less than 2 weeks away. Actually write that down on your workflow. Set those rules up for you right in your workflow. The next step of designing your process, what's that going to look like? Do you have a menu? Do you need a menu? Do you have pricing? How are you going to communicate that to the person? Because the worst thing in the world, this is going to be a little bit of a tangent. The worst thing in the world is when you as a consumer are confused about next steps. Like, I am renovating a house right now and it is hell. I can't tell you how bad these contractors are at communicating. And it's not because they're bad people. They're just like, they don't have any systems in place. Like, I tried to hire a drywaller and I had to ask what his availability was. I had to ask if he needed to come out to like see the space. I had to ask pricing. I had to ask when I could pay him. I had to ask when he would come and follow up and like do patches and holes. And it was terrible. And it basically made me lose all confidence in this business. And I didn't end up booking them. So if you are having to constantly ask the questions as the customer, it's just like a really bad feeling. It takes away my confidence as a consumer. So as a business owner, you certainly want to be leading your customer through the experience and like almost answering their questions before they even knew that they had them. So instead of people asking like, well, what do you offer? Send them someplace where it shows what you offer. Or like, what colors do you have? Do you have a color chart? Do you make it easy for them to visualize what colors are available? Because like right now, we all know you can't just say anything's available. Like that just isn't true right now. There's a shortage and you just can't get balloons like you used to in every color any day of the week. So maybe you have a color chart. All of these little details can be written down in your workflow. So you get all the way to the end. You get all the way to you've done the job, you've thanked the person, maybe you have put a reminder on your calendar or scheduled an email to go out like 9 months from now telling them that it's time to rebook. So now you're going to actually go even further in, drill down even further, and figure out the actual wording of what you are going to say at those steps. So start at the beginning. If someone emails and says, hey, I heard about you. My friend used you at a party. We're thinking about having a birthday party for my daughter in 3 weeks. What do I do? What do they do? Like what is your email template? What are the exact words that you need to use? That is all part of the experience because trust me, it is much, much better to get an email that outlines your full process or is just like warm or sounds like, you took a second to think about it or there's not typos. Like that is so much better, even if it takes longer to receive than a DM that says, yep, I'm available. Like that's weird to me. That's too casual. You need to give them some information. So figure out exactly what wording you want to use, how you're going to sign it, when you're going to send it. Figure out all of those little details that can go into your actual email templates. And then use those templates. That's kind of the next step of setting up a workflow. Short of implementing a CRM, you can also have templates that you save in like your Gmail so that anytime someone sends you a request for a job, have an email ready to go, like that you can fire off without even customizing. Like, thank you for your request. I'm available on your day. Here's how the process is going to work and when your payment is going to due. Here's my color chart if you want to start gathering some sort of inspiration. Are you available for a phone call later today? Like nothing in that needs to be customized, but you can respond within like 30 seconds and they think that you have like the best customer service ever. Now, getting to the 17 hats part, I have my email like that and it's automatic. So it sends out for me, like as soon as someone sends me the request, 17 hats without me doing anything fires back that email that I've already written. So that way, in the meantime, when I'm like going about my day and not even checking email, people have already figured out like, oh, here's this Garland pricing guide that I missed on the website, or oh, here's this color chart. So I can start picking my colors and I didn't actually see that on the website either. Or oh, it says she's booked until the end of November and I ignored that before I sent the form, but now I see it. So basically, it's like a follow-up that I have written, but I don't have to send for every single person. So then when they respond saying their availability to either chat, or sometimes I skip that step depending on what they're ordering, like if it's a grab-and-go garland or if it's a balloon marquee, I jump right to the invoicing. So that's where you can kind of customize your workflow. If they tell me everything that I need to know in the first form, I just invoice them and there's no communication. But it feels like there is because I have these templates that kind of have been set up. So when I send the invoice, it's not just a link asking for money. It says like, thank you so much. I'm available. I think your theme of, fill in the blank will be really fun. I deliver every weekday between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. And if that timing doesn't work for your delivery, let me know. And people never have a problem with it. They think that I am setting up their order, that I am inputting their theme, that I am, designing this thing for them. And I am, but I do that for everyone. And it's the same wording, it's the same language. So coming up with that scripted, those email templates, that's not fun to do, but it saves you so much time. And then when you have your CRM in place, it can send that for you. So like when I generate an invoice and I click send, it sends along that wording and that warm, fuzzy, like, thank you. Also, like the very practical, like when I'm going to be there, all that information also goes out in the email body when I send my invoice. So like I I don't even have to type the message that goes along with the invoice. I just send the link and they get that. They pay with a magical button that is all set up through 17 Hats. And then I get notification that they've paid. I actually get like a little, thing on my phone that says like, cha-ching, you just made money or something like that. So that's super fun when I get those payments. Okay, so that is just kind of an overview of a workflow. There's not any set workflow that you have to use. There's not any recipe. There's not anything that you have to do. The whole point is you are doing this anyway. You are working through the same steps every time someone books you, but you maybe haven't ever taken the time to really write down what those steps are and kind of hone them so they're perfect. What is the wording in your email as perfect as it possibly could be? Is every link that they could possibly need in that email? Are people behaving and doing exactly what you want them to do? Or are the same questions coming up over and over again? Like, are people always asking for your color chart? Are people always asking when they should pay? That's like a good indicator that that part of your workflow needs to be tailored a little bit. So you have 3 months between now and the end of the year. Actually, 3 months. We're still in September, but it's coming quick. So take these 3 months to figure out word for word what you're going to say every step of the way and what actions you're going to do every step of the way so that your customer experience is undebatable. Like, it is the best in town. People love working with you. People don't care how much you charge because it is so easy to work with you. They certainly don't care how much the DIYer is charging that just went into business because they can't even get an email response back from that person, let alone a full, guided tour onto how to best book their party. Now, sometimes I fail at this, you guys. Sometimes I get overwhelmed and I get backed up to an email and I abandon my own practices because I'm just like, I don't know. I self-sabotage when I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what it is. But when my system is dialed in, I can get through like a weekend's worth of email in like maybe a half an hour because I'm not typing any of them. That's the secret. My workflow is set up and all I have to do is trust myself that like, okay, this amount of work right now seems like it is drowning me, but really, what do I have to do? Okay, I have to click into 17 Hats. I have to click on my new leads. I have to open up that file and see if I'm available. If I am, I click this next button that sends my next steps email. If I'm not available, I send this email that's already written for me. Like, that is it. And when I break things down into really like tiny baby steps like that, it helps me get through that impossible amount of work. My next step, if you want to know like where I'm going, I've been doing this for probably maybe like 3.5 years now. I've been using 17 Hats and I've been in business for 5. My next step is to now start building out my automation. So even more is happening behind the scenes, including like backend and product automation. So every time I put like a column on an invoice, I want 17 Hats to automatically tell me that I need to have like 50 balloons ready for that column. So then if I'm doing 10 columns, I need 500 balloons ready for that project. So again, I'm not there yet, but I do think that I could actually get it almost like generating product lists for me so that I can get a hold of my inventory a little bit better than I do, because it can be really tailored to you. Again, not from the beginning because you'll get too overwhelmed, but eventually when you figure things out, you can kind of start figuring out like how it could work best for you. Something else that 17 Hats has that's really cool that I haven't implemented yet is a scheduling tool. So you can have your customers like booking you without you doing anything. So they could like pick their date on a calendar, they could pay the deposit, and they could book your services without you interacting with them at all. So again, like I mentioned in another episode where my friend Allie collects her deposit before she even starts working with people, that would be a really good technique to collect that money and then start the design process. I'm not ready to do that yet because I'm pretty like picky. Like, I don't want to take someone's money for a job that I'm just not interested in doing. So I would hate for someone to like book a date and then have to figure out a way to tell them I'm actually not available because I don't want to be. So that is a feature that's available though. I think if you're like a balloon twister or like a face painter, that could be super, super cool. Like, if I had had this 10 years ago when I was painting faces for fun, I would have totally used that calendar feature. People could have just booked me and paid for my services because it was the same. It was I don't know what I charged at the time, like $100 an hour. They would just have to book their time and their location and it would be done. It would be amazing. So I haven't even gone into like 10% of the features that 17 Hats has to offer. What I did want to say about 17 Hats is if you're listening to me and you're like, oh my gosh, I need this, but like I don't even know where to start. I understand. It is not easy, and I don't want to paint it like it is easy. I don't want to say like, just click and just give them your money and like it'll all fix itself. It really will not. You have to train it. You have to learn it. And that's why people ask me all the time, like, please, I will pay you money to set up my 17 Hats. And I won't do it because that's like asking someone to just like cook you a meal so that you know how to cook. Like that's not how it works. Like you have to learn it. In order for it to be as powerful as it can be, you have to learn it. That would be like someone else training your employees. It wouldn't work for your business. Like you need to train them. So that's my side note about why I don't do this for people. But if you are attending Balloon Boss Summit, which is like an in-person live event, it's in November, it's in Florida, there are still spaces available. I am going to be there. I'm sponsored by 17 Hats because obviously I love them. They are sending me to this convention to help you guys that are there implement. So basically you could come with nothing and you could leave with a full, basic level of 17 Hats set up on your website, using it for your business. Like I will be there doing, it could be like one-on-ones. Like I don't care. I'm there all week. And that's what's cool about Summit. It's like you can sit through a class with an instructor, but then you can eat dinner with that instructor. And then you can sit by the pool and actually talk shop with that instructor. And then I have night sessions where I will actually be kind of showing the behind the scenes. So I think that would be a really, really good goal. If this is something that seriously interests you and you're going to Summit, just commit to like getting it all set up that week. I will help you do it. And I know there's other people that will be at Summit with kind of that same model. So the Fiores, who I started working with for bookkeeping, they got me all set up on QuickBooks. Like I used to use QuickBooks Self-Employed. Now I use QuickBooks, I don't even know what it's called, like the real kind. And it's confusing for me. They are going to be there talking about money stuff, and they're also going to be having like little mini sessions, like breakout sessions where they can answer your specific questions and help you like one-on-one. That is the beauty of Summit. It's so small. It's about 100 people, but I don't know how many instructors off the top of my head, but like probably like 15 or 20 instructors. So like the ratio of student to instructor is really low, meaning like you get one-on-one time, you can eat dinner, you can chat with people, like we're all there to learn too. So it's a really business-centered, very focused week, and I love it. So again, that's Balloon Boss Summit. You can use the link in the show notes if you are thinking of signing up. And just like I tried to do in this episode, I will be teaching, but I'm going to be teaching about like workflow and streamlining and your email templates so that if you already have a CRM, some of that is still relevant for you. But I am absolutely there to represent 17 Hats and to encourage those of you that are just floundering and drowning in your emails. There is a solution, and it is not expensive and it is not super difficult. It just takes a commitment to actually like crack down and finally put it into place. So that's why I'm ending this series of Set It Up September with this CRM 17 Hats episode, because it does take time to learn, to commit to, and Summit is right in between now and the end of the year. So you could kind of get everything in place, buy the platform, start poking around. In November, you could come to Summit, work with me to get everything set up so that when January comes around, you are just like ready to hit the ground running with your business like never, ever before. Again, it is the only reason that I am able to run my business without help. There's no way I would be able to do everything I do without an actual person helping me, like an actual assistant. The only reason that I'm able to is because 17 Hats does so much of the work for me. But like I said, I had to train it. I had to teach it. I had to put everything into place so that I am to the point where I feel like I'm not getting overwhelmed, but it's so worth it. So I hope I see you in November at Summit, but you certainly don't need my help to implement 17 Hats or any CRM. If you think your business needs one, then it probably needed one 3 years ago is what it comes down to. If you're still getting like 1 or 2 requests a month and you're just starting off and you're able to totally manage things just with like old school email communication, that's fine. But you will get to a point where you start to drown. And I think that's where a lot of people give up and they decide balloons aren't worth it anymore because running a business is really hard. This has been the thing that has kept me alive and sane and organized. And knock on wood, but I've never missed or forgotten a job yet. That's always my big fear, that I just won't show up somewhere I'm supposed to be. So this keeps my head on straight. All right, I hope that was helpful, and I will see you guys next week. That wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, I tried to keep it bright and light in a few minutes or less. I'll talk to you next time. For more information about any of the resources or courses mentioned in today's show, please head to TheBrightBalloon.com or check the show notes wherever you're listening.